Hello everyone, I'm Airbags and welcome to this video where we'll go through over what was revealed during the last Apple Manager 23 stream and what we can expect basically from the next game. So with that in mind, let's jump straight into it and we'll have a look at the race replay feature. Basically, I'll be going through the entire stream and it's basically a summary of the parts that I found interesting. So let's see what we can expect of the next game of theirs.
What was the inspiration or idea behind adding this whole new mode? Was it that you wanted to explore different ways to enjoy and play F1? I know partly it's about tying the gameplay to the real season as well. Was that something you wanted to achieve with this?
Yeah, so essentially we've heard obviously community feedback in various areas of the game. One of the key things was that we wanted to allow people to jump straight into the action. With these particular race grids here, you can choose any team. So you can choose any team you want for that circuit and just jump in, get straight into the action. And it also means that you can have that sort of the close match with the real world Formula One results and the races that are occurring not each weekend, but on race weekends.
Sure.
So the race moments take place in the middle of a Grand Prix, so you'll be jumping in, say 20 laps in, it varies from the race moment. And they put you as a specific team as well, so in the starting grid you can pick any team. The race moment you'll be set as a team with a specific target of either a set amount of points, a set position, either for the team or for one of your drivers. So they're really kind of like curated challenges, again based on the real race though. So every race will have a starting grid and a race moment for the 2023 season. So that's the kind of the focus of the race moments. So they're shorter sessions obviously because you're taking starting from the middle.
Race replay, you'll have a summary page at the end that shows your points versus the real result, right?
Yes, so you'll see your position compared to where that driver finished in real life, and then as you say, the points that each driver scored and the points that you as a principal scored compared to the real one. You can see it in the race as well, so the tick in the top right, the objective, showing that you are currently beating what Ferrari achieved in real life, so that's what that's reflecting. I think 5th and 7th from memory is where they finished, I feel like something like that. So you'll get a summary of that after the race.
So there we have it. The race replay mode is split into two. You have your starting grid and race moments. Each of the real life races will have a starting grid and race moment implemented into the game as the 2020 season goes on, meaning that they will get more content as the season, develops. The starting grid is fairly simple. We can pick any of the 10 teams. We start as they did for said race weekend, including their available tyres, their qualification position, starting conditions in terms of weather, as the real life Grand Prix had, but the race itself is at random and will not necessarily go exactly as the real life one did. Race moments, created challenges from different race weekends. Basically, they take an interesting moment and puts us in that specific situation. And basically, our goal is to see if we can perform better than the team did. The goal being beating their result.
But can you give us a little bit of info on sort of how tyre management is going to be looking for 23?
Yeah, so as you say, currently you're pushing quite a bit on these tyres, obviously on the mediums there. And what you'll find is that in this game, you've got to really pay attention to the tyre temperatures because we simulate the carcass and the surface temperature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's actually quite a good example right now of where you're pushing on with Sainz and with Leclerc. But Leclerc's tyres are hotter than Sainz, as you saw. Like they went red a minute ago because they were starting to overheat. It's because we're taking into account things like dirty air as well. So for Sainz, he's got a decent gap in front of him, so he's not getting much dirty air off Alonso ahead. Whereas Leclerc, who's in the pack right behind Magnussen, that's affecting his tyres as well. So you have to think about that. Maybe if you're not pushing to overtake, then maybe you need to conserve a bit more because you'll start to overheat the tyres potentially, and then obviously the tyres will degrade faster, and you might have to either pit earlier or even do an extra stop. If you
I'm actually keen to ask you about the development of car parts in particular, because I know that's changed somewhat for this season as well. What can you tell me about that, which is new?
So the car part development, not only have we made it a little bit more accessible in terms of how you utilise it, and obviously that's not visible here, but players will see that when they see the screens. But you've also now got the idea of developing parts based on their durability. So you've got various options available to you for that. So you can essentially set it to be more durable, which is great, but it will have slightly lower performance. But it just means it will last that little bit longer. It's mostly down to the weight. To make it more durable, it's a little bit heavier. And what that also means is it's less likely to fail on parts inspection. So we have a system that after the races, they'll come along and inspect your parts, and if they're not quite up to scratch, there's a chance they'll fail. You'll then have to go away and either, if you haven't, build new ones, but have them available in your factory, in your warehouse, or just fit them.
As you just heard, tire temperatures are now fairly important. They're simulating track and carcass. The temperatures itself have gotten kind of a rework, and dirty air now has a bigger effect on your tire temperature. So basically, what I expect is tires to degrade quicker. If you run them too cold, run them too hot, I need to do a little bit more micromanagement. They also said they made car development more accessible. Going to be interesting to have a look at that. Durability is going to be interesting too, particularly if they're now using weight. Would be great. And the fact that parts now can fail basically scrutineering after races need a replacement could also be interesting in terms of the cost cap. And as we will see in a little bit here, they've actually made some changes to cost cap, or rather rebalanced it in their words.
Talking about difficulty compared to last season's game. So what were your thoughts on that going into developing this game?
So obviously community feedback is something that we do read frequently and take on board, and it's certainly something that we looked at, and there were several areas which were sort of key to that, and we looked at it and across the board made different changes to approach. So first of all, it is the cost cap one. That is something that we needed to adjust slightly, but it's also how the other teams make progress as well. So there's various bits that go into this, including other teams developing their cars in certain ways, and also on track. So that's something that will basically end up with more battles, essentially. The AI teams can now push much harder.
Sure.
They're a lot smarter in terms of the strategies they choose. They don't necessarily just choose a strategy and stick to it. They will react to ongoing track action, and they're constantly hunting for the best pit stop strategy as well. So it's not just a case of them giving you better battles with things like ERS, DRS, and the pushing their tyres, for example, but it's also how they handle the on-track action and react to it in their overall strategies as a team.
And the cost cap in general is, again, something that we've sort of looked at as well, right? So kind of rebalance that a little bit. Again, a bit of community feedback was that it maybe wasn't as effective. So we've looked at that, right?
Yeah, so there's been multiple rebalances going. I'm not going to go into like crazy amounts of detail.
No, of course.
Because obviously there's still, I will say as well, there's still balancing ongoing.
As always,
in progress.
We've got our little work in progress there.
Yeah, so that has been rebalanced to make it more realistic.
As you all just heard, they are making changes to the AI. The AI has now had changes to how the teams progress and develop, which I assume will be more competitive. And AI teams will be more competitive in general. They said they will react to track action, change pit stop strategies. Looking forward to seeing how that will work. And what I expect is generally an AI that is smarter and more difficult to deal with. But at the same time, I would be probably a bit tempered in my expectations here. We shouldn't expect world-class AI. We know what we had last game. But it is promising to hear, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. The fact that they have changed the cost cap, looking forward to that too. See if it's actually going to be an issue in this game. Last game, it was a non-issue at all. And as I said, they have had several rebalances and it's still being worked on. So looking forward to seeing how that looks at the final product.
So yeah, driver confidence is a new feature for 2023 in all your races. It will ebb and flow throughout the race, and depending on what happens, getting an overtake will boost your driver's confidence. Being overtaken, obviously will reduce it, and there's a lot of similar things as well. Just battling in general, like if you're successfully defending from someone, that's going to boost their confidence as well, build them up. So you can track it as we saw in that previous screen. It ties into the practice sessions as well, so that will set kind of their base confidence for the weekend, how well you've set the car up, whether they got acclimatised to the circuit, if they're kind of comfortable with the parts on the car. Yeah, and it plays in with their engineer as well, which obviously, again, the engineer was a staff member in the previous game. You see them on the radio all the time in the races and stuff. But they play into the confidence too, because they're a really big part in real life of the driver's kind of mindset and managing that, right, and helping the driver, giving them the information they need, telling them, and sometimes when they don't need information, right, because it might distract them, that sort of thing. So yeah, the engineer affects that, the relationship between the driver and the engineer, their affinity, which again was in the last game as well, but that plays into the kind of the confidence that you see in the game. So if they've got a good relationship, they'll trend towards better confidence. And there's also a new one of the performance attributes that the engineers have now called composure, which affects those fluctuations as well. So if you've got a really good engineer, your driver's going to get kind of more boosts from good events and kind of less. They'll kind of soften the blows of negative ones when they're conversing with the driver. And it ties in as well with some of the new tactics we've added as well,
Yes.
which live in that same menu you're looking at a minute ago, around kind of overtaking and defending. And these kind of, I think we quite often describe them as quite kind of like risk management. So yeah, you can tell the driver to be more aggressive overtakes, which means they're more likely to get the job done, but also you're increasing that risk that they're going to have a collision with the other car, and the same with when they're defending as well. Or you can, again, conversely tell them to be less risky, they're more likely to get past or less likely to overtake, but they're being a bit safer there.
As you just heard, they've added a driver confidence system. It also has an effect from your engineer, and also a menu for risk management. So the way that I look at driver confidence is that it is a form system, which is basically what the 22 version was lacking. Your starting point is set during practice, and basically, depending on your performance during quali and the race, it's going to go up and down, depending on if you get overtaken. If you do overtakes, basically, perform well, generally high confidence. Perform bad, generally going to be bad. Again, a form system. You can beat it if you work hard, but high confidence would generally be better performance. Low confidence would generally be worse performance. And honestly, we've been missing this system. It's good. It's a good thing they've added it. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how it works. Also, the risk menu, it's interesting, but it's quite limited. You basically have 3 options for overtakes, 3 options for defense. For overtakes, you can be more aggressive, equally more risk. You can be neutral, or you can take less risks when overtaking, which of course is safer. And you have the same for defense. You can do more aggressive defensive moves, which will lead to more risk of accidents. And you can do less defensive, less risky defensive moves, more to say, which could lead to you getting overtaken, but at the same time, we now have a system where we can order the drivers to, go more aggressive at it. I'm not going to judge it until I actually see it. It seems very, very promising. And honestly, I would have liked it if they actually speak more about it, because this is the only really thing that I found about it, the risk management system, during the stream, and it's extremely short. So personally looking forward to seeing how that pans out.
F2 and F3 race results being visible on a weekend. That is something, again, that we had feedback on for 2022. We only had the drivers as like a roster in 22. So a little bit of growth there was that we decided that F2 and F3 championships should be simulated, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we simulate all of the races for them now, all of the sessions, sorry, I shouldn't just say races, because we simulate the practice, the qualifying as well.
Yes.
So they're all going on in the background while you're doing your races at obviously the appropriate weekends, because they don't do every Grand Prix. And then after the weekend, you'll get a summary email of the results of any Formula 2 or Formula 3 races, who was on the podium, how people did. Or you can also jump in to view the standings, so you can see the championship positions. And also you can go through, as I say, the session result as you would for your own races. So for practice, for qualifying, the sprint race and the feature race. So it's all there, you can see.
The drivers will develop based on those results, right? So how they perform in the F2 and F3 championships kind of leads into their development, right?
Yeah, so same as F1, obviously having good resuls there will help boost their development.
One of the key pieces of feedback was the driver development. It was very sort of, I don't know what the right word is, it kept going up and up, right? You just gain points and you put them into the relevant skill areas and watch your driver improve over time, and as they got older they kept improving, kept adding points. So now it's a lot more natural how they develop over time. So what will happen is if your driver is in the car performing well, they will gain experience, and rather than just clicking on the button and watching the points go up, you will actually set areas that you want them to focus on for training. Mm-hmm. So that might be you want them to focus on overtakes or something. There's various options available, but the idea is that if they perform well, you will then improve in one of those attributes in that area. So there are multiple attributes that you will still see, and you can still see all the points and things. I know everyone loves reading the points for the drivers, and obviously people agree or disagree on the ratings, and you'll see those ratings change based on the development areas you've set. But alongside that, you will also need to make sure that that driver has consistent experience in a race to continue improving. And this will also factor into their age. So as the drivers get older, you will need to keep pushing them more and more, and they need to keep getting those consistent race positions in order to continue improving.
So, the changes to F2 and F3. F2 and F3 are now fully simulated, including practice, quali, sprint races, and the race themselves. And development of F2 and F3 drivers is going to be based on their results and general performance during these simulations. In terms of driver development, we now develop F1 drivers, well, our own drivers, through focuses, and the speed of this development is based on their performance. We also know that age is now a factor. As they get older, they're going to require greater performances to either keep improving or generally just keep their stats as they are. And if they start having bad performances or just don't get enough time in the car, they will start declining skill-wise. So this is seemingly a good change. Looking forward to seeing how it actually plays out. That's actually what I want to say for all of these new features and changes. I want to see how they play out before I praise them. I'll say that they're bad, but generally I feel this is a good change.
As well, my ERS Battle Assist, which is another new part of the game, right? Can we just go into a little bit about what ERS Battle Assist is and what that means?
Yeah, so it's a new way to use the ERS, slightly different from last year where we had the overtake and defend modes. This kind of, so we've kind of replaced them with the Battle Assist now. It almost lets you use them kind of in combo with any of the other modes we had, so neutral, deploy and harvest. So you still have your 4 different ERS modes, and then the Battle Assist on top of that effectively gets the driver to kind of reserve some of that energy they have for the lap that you've kind of allotted them to use for areas where they might be battling, whether they're overtaking or defending another driver. So they'll be slightly slower because they're not using it for the optimal lap time, but they'll be, in theory, they'll be better at overtaking and defending with that on. And as I say, we had similar things with that with overtake and defend in the previous game, but we've now made it into its own option, the Battle Assist, that you can toggle on or off, so you can use it in tandem with any of the other ERS modes you have. So you can still be harvesting energy if you need to harvest energy because you're low, but tell them, use the little energy you are allowed to use it to try and defend this position or attack. We've also added a new ERS mode as well, the Top Up mode, which sits between harvest and neutral. Now you have a middle ground there where you'll save a bit every lap, so you'll slowly kind of tick up, but you won't be as slow as harvest because you're still using more energy. So there's it's a nice middle ground there. It makes, for me, I find it makes me want to use the ERS more because I'm less scared of using the deploy one and then having to harvest because I can use that top up as well in the middle.
All right, they've added a new ERS mode, the ERS Battle Assist, and they've also added a new mode to the ERS itself, Top Up, which actually sounds pretty good because harvest kind of left you like a sitting duck. Top Up is more a middle ground between neutral and harvest. Assume that what should take 2 laps to refuel will now take 4, but at the same time you are far more safer. The ERS Battle Assist at the same time, it gives your driver some extra energy that they can use for overtaking and defending during the lap that they otherwise would have used to, of course, give you the best lap times possible, but now they can use it for defending and overtaking. You will be slower, but at the same time you will be safer. You can toggle the ERS Battle Assist on and off as you see fit. If you don't like it, feel free to just toggle it off. And you can use it with any other mode. So honestly, it could change, but again, looking forward to seeing how it actually plays out. Now, this is most of the things that were revealed, but I have some more things here that I've just bundled into, well, an ending here at the end. So let's just see what they are.
There was an accident on the restart. That first corner, which is again something that we've looked at, right? We've got a bit more first corner action coming for the game.
Yeah. So there's the way that's been implemented is essentially the cars will now use a lot more of the track width. So you'll see them pushing a little bit more over the curbs. They'll be able to have more battles through corners and things. And alongside that, obviously, there's a chance there'll be a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact in the corners, and obviously, the time you most see that is on the first corner. Not necessarily at every circuit, but there's some circuits that are especially bad for it.
When we came into the pit stop, it popped up at the end of my pit stop, and it said fastest pit stop 10th, and then popped up to second, telling me that I had the second fastest pit stop. Can you allude a little bit as to what that might mean, Lloyd?
Yeah, so, obviously, you can read into that. It's the fastest pit stop awards.
Yeah, right.
That's something we've implemented. So, obviously, there's an extra bit of incentive there to keep training your pit crew to the right level.
So, yeah, we now have the sporting director role in the game, which is effectively responsible for. It's a bit of a. It sounds like a very broad role, doesn't it? But they are responsible for kind of all the trackside operations at the race weekend. So your sporting director is going to be responsible effectively for preparing your pit crew and sorting out their training. So, somebody said any mouse support for PS5, gents, Mr. Rich. Yes, we have mouse and keyboard support for consoles. Will there be mid-session saves? Yes. There will be mid-session saves. Yes.
As said at the end there, just had other things of note. As you can see, first corner mayhem will be far more common. Cars will use more of the track. We'll have more fights in general. It's going to be interesting. The fastest pit stop award has been implemented. Sport director, new position. As far as I can see, they mainly just deal with your pit crew, the training, and potentially general performance. You can now save mid-race, which is going to be great. We have the visor cam, where you can actually watch the races from the driver's point of view. Pretty good. And there will now be mouse and keyboard support for console. So again, some interesting stuff there. Again, Sporting Director got relegated to the end there. They didn't really reveal much there. And again, basically in charge for your pit crew so far. Might have an extension of role later. Fast Pit Stop Award. Could be fun to see. Again, it's realism. It's one of those small things that matter to some people. The first Corner Mayhem, though, we'll see how well balanced that is. If it's every race, of course, some tracks have more, chance of getting that. But yeah, so far I'd say this stream leaves me feeling promising. There's a lot of smaller changes and things that probably a lot of us feel should have been in the first game. But again, they made a good base in 22. It seems they've actually extended pretty well on that base in 23. Of course, there's some things that we really would have liked, like changing your team, making one team the best and changing and taking yourself down a peg, so to speak. I would really like to make my own team, but it seems like they focus on the base game and also with the race moments and starting grids, focus on trying to get some, how should I word this, focus on a more casual audience and also to have some engagement during the race weekends. So I'm looking forward to seeing what more we get revealed to us before the game releases, but so far it is promising. And again, they have said the AI is going to be more competitive, but I would honestly temper expectations until we see exactly how competitive the AI is, personally. But again, I feel it's good. Hopefully you've enjoyed this summary. It became a lot longer than I anticipated. It took a lot longer than I thought too. I sat down Friday night, got started. Unfortunately, I was away this weekend, so I didn't have any chance to really work on it. Been sitting here this morning before going to work, finishing up. But I apologize. I was really thinking of just making a very, very short video, but there was actually a lot of information here, as you can see. So hopefully you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Let's hope this does not get taken down. Bye-bye.